Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. This is Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast, and as you can tell, things are slightly different now. We have a new opening theme, we've got a new logo, we're fresh, we're uplifted, and we're ready for another episode. I am your High Priest, Ray, and unfortunately, Khonshu won't be joining us tonight. I believe he took his carbonadium armor out with him and a motorcycle, and he's hitting the streets of New York. So, best of luck there, Connor. Hopefully we'll catch you again soon. But in Connor's place, and as mentioned in our newsletter, we have a special guest. We have Orion Petitclerc from the Venomaniacs podcast on YouTube. Welcome, Orion. How are you?
I'm well. How about you?
Yeah, really good, and really happy to have you on the show as well with us. It's always great to have new guests and people that can bring in, a different angle towards our show. And let it be said, you're very, Venom-centric. Before we get into it, let's let the loony listeners know a bit more about yourself. So tell us more about your podcast.
Yeah, so I'm kind of a moderator of sorts for the Venom site. We are one of the internet's largest and most prominent Venom fan clubs. Not just Venom, but all things symbiote. We're also kind of recognized by, kind of unofficially, we're recognized by Marvel Editorial and some of the creators. We've had we run our own podcast called We Are Venomaniacs, which we publish on YouTube right now. We'll figure out how to publish on other platforms soon. We're now recording on our Discord channel that we have, the We Are Venomaniacs Discord server, so that anytime we record, we let people know the date of recording, and they can always log in to listen to a live recording and chat with the creators via text. It's a pretty cool club. We've really grown over the years. A lot of us first joined when the Venom Volume 2 by Rick Remender had started, which was the first run for Flash Thompson's Agent Venom, a very popular series. I've been around since then as well, and really saw this community grow since then. And we have a presence on several different platforms. We have it on Twitter. We have a subreddit which I help run, and several other places. But you can mostly find us on www.thevenomsite.com.
Fantastic. What I really love about that, Orion, as well as what you've mentioned, is that Discord server. Real innovation. We love interacting with. It's so cool because if you lift up under a rock somewhere, you'll find all these podcasts about not only Marvel characters but DC characters as well. And we've had a field day interacting and just meeting these new podcasts. So, my gosh, I can't believe we haven't come across the Venomaniacs up until now. We've had, the likes of Iron Fist, Ghost Rider. There's a big Punisher one at the moment as well. It's been going on for ages. I love just trying to track down these character-based podcasts. So when you approached me actually to come on the show as well, I just had to grab it with two hands. It just sounds so cool. And with Venom very much in the mind's eye of people, not only in comics, but also in the movies, it must be a real boon for you guys. It must be a really exciting time for you guys to be bringing out episodes and discussing things, new material. Donny Cates, say, for instance, and delving into the past ones as well.
Oh yeah, we've definitely been having a heyday. It's a bit of a double-edged sword with the movie, though. You probably heard a lot of the negative reviews about it from critics and from fans. But for the most part, we've had a lot of support support for the Venom movie, so that's great. And then Donny Cates, we've been having quite the renaissance when it comes to Venom comics, because Eddie Brock became Venom once again. I think it was just last year, and the run he became Venom in by Mike Costa. It kind of divided fans, I think. For the most part, there's been a lot of fans saying they liked it popping up recently, but it was kind of a little controversial because Costa had begun his series essentially almost completely forgetting that Flash had the symbiote. Because in the previous, before Costa's run was the Venom Space Knight run. Yeah, that was another really popular Venom series. And
Olivetti art was superb.
Yeah, definitely. And so when all of a sudden Mike Costa's series begins with Venom no longer with Flash, everyone was a bit disappointed. It's like, hey, what's happening here? And then he had it bond to
the guy.
Sorry.
What's his name? Lee?
Yeah.
Is it Lee? Something?
Lee Price. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. In case the podcasters don't know, it's actually 1:30 or thereabouts in the morning where I am in California. So it's I'm probably going to have a few moments where I'm like, oh, I gotta remember this.
We had to have you under the moonlight, as you mentioned on Twitter. So if you come on the show, you've got to come under the moonlight.
So yeah, definitely, it's pretty cool. The Lee Price Venom is probably the least favored Venom host, and it's been pretty funny how much of a reaction Lee Price got from fans. Like you'll find a few fans out there who love Lee Price, but for the most part, we want to forget about him. Yeah, but you go ahead.
Sorry, look, I collected that series. I kind of had to drop it towards the end there, but from what I take from it in hindsight, it seemed like Marvel were building up for the symbiote to return to Eddie Brock, and that being the big marketing thing, right? And so I always saw Lee as a transitional character. There was a surprise when he got the symbiote, because everyone's like, who the hell is this guy? And again, as you were saying, looking back into Venom Space Knight, which was an awesome run, I really loved it. And incidentally, no surprises, Marvel do this sort of thing. Like things chop and change so quickly, but I did miss seeing what happened to Space Knight Venom, because he was an awesome character. But yeah, I always saw Lee as a transitional character as well. Was that? Do you know anything further to that? Was he meant to be? Was he road tested to be the next Venom, and was he changed because of popularity or something like that?
I think that the original intention Mike Costa had was him to be Venom, but then that was really early on when the Venom movie news was first coming out, and it was like, oh, we're getting Eddie Brock as Venom in the movie, so it might have been a little bit of movie synergy going on there, saying, hey, we gotta bring Eddie Brock back for the movie. Yeah. So I think that's what really pushed them, because I think Mike Costa intended for Lee Price to last longer than the 6 issues he did. So they immediately brought Eddie Brock back in for issue number 6, and then following that, the big issue number 150, when they went with the legacy numbering. I think that's when I dropped off it. But okay. Yeah, so the return of Eddie Brock had a bit of mixed reviews, because with his history, the way he was acting with the symbiote was very incongruent with previous incarnations of the character, such as just before the Space Knight series, not Space, just before the Mike Costa series, there was this great Carnage run by Jerry Conway.
Yeah, that was great. I followed that. That was good.
It was great. Yeah, no, definitely. There was one issue in particular towards the end that had one of the pivotal Eddie Brock characterizations in Eddie Brock's history. It was fantastic. Of course, the ending was something not quite as loved as everyone would want it to be. It felt a bit rushed.
Okay, yeah.
But I think that was because of the idea of Marvel trying to synergize it with the movie, because they had to get rid of, because at the time Eddie Brock was bonded to the Toxin symbiote, which is the son of Carnage.
Yeah. And he was controlled. He had there was a flip switch that one of the agents had that could actually allow the symbiote, the Toxin symbiote, to be released. Right? It was a great series. I loved it. It came and went. Beautiful Mike Perkins art. I remember. I loved the delving into the Darkhold, which Jerry Conway had reintroduced. He actually introduced it all the way back. I think even Werewolf by Night, let's link it to Moon Knight. I think it was there. I was reading some old comics by Jerry Conway, and there was an interview then I read after about him introducing it in the Carnage series. And it was really good. I love that. I thought it was great. It had a really tense... Carnage was kind of not the focus point in it, which I really loved. It was that team of... is it John Jameson, who's the son of J. Jonah Jameson?
Yep.
And had Betty Brock. He was the unstable one. I really enjoyed that series actually, but it wasn't liked towards the end.
Yeah, no, it was specifically the last issue.
Okay,
it felt like a very rushed conclusion. Yeah. A lot of it kind of went unexplained.
Right.
Otherwise, the rest of the series was just absolutely phenomenal.
It was great, wasn't it? Oh, so dark.
Yeah, I think they went in the right direction for Carnage with that one, as Jerry Conway put it. Instead of making him, just this mass murder serial killer, two-dimensional character, he was like, you know what? Let's make Carnage basically a force of nature that you can't exactly stop. You just have to survive. And I love that. I love that aspect of Carnage now. It's like, like Cletus Cassidy is not a sympathetic character. No. He's very two-dimensional, which is fine, because really, when you introduce Cletus Cassidy or Carnage into the story, he's there to just, cause chaos.
Yeah. And it's hard to actually write for him, I guess, because you can't garner that sympathy for him, right? Because his character betrays any form of, trying to empathize with him. He's, as you say, like a brutal force. So I think it's difficult for writers to probably handle him in that sense without him being very one-dimensional. But I thought Jerry Conway did it really well by having him kind of put aside a little, and him being the prize that everyone's kind of looking for. What happened to? There was a new symbiote, wasn't there? That woman, yes. I can't remember. She was on the boat.
Yes,
she was a
Raze.
Daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, Raze. So Raze was kind of we're never sure, because there's two kind of spawn when it comes to symbiotes. There are true spawn like Toxin, or there are clone spawn, which I like to call them, kind of like Raze or Scorn or any of the Life Foundation symbiotes, which people will be familiar with Life Foundation symbiotes from the movie, such as Riot and the other ones.
Right.
Although in the movie they weren't spawn of Venom, but
yeah.
No need to be confused there. But, Raze was one of the cloned spawn, I believe. And she, her symbiote got absorbed in the end by, by one of the other characters, Jubilee, who was the new character for the series. She got absorbed by Jubilee to take on...
Right. Yeah.
The elder god Cthon, which Carnage was bringing to Earth.
Yes.
So she merged with the symbiote rays. She took down Chthon, and then that was the last we saw of Rays. She also absorbed the toxin symbiote, so she had both symbiotes with her. So that's how Eddie Brock lost the toxin symbiote, just to be prepared for Venom.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, really good stuff. It's such a world in itself, like the symbiotes and everything. It's fascinating stuff. What other titles are you picking up at the moment? Say, like from the last week, what's on your pull list?
On my pull list, I've got I really liked a few years ago. Cullen Bunn did a series called The Fearless Defenders.
Oh, okay.
Which was an all-female Marvel team featuring the likes of Valkyrie and several other characters. I'm right now blanking on them, but recently he started a new series called The Asgardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, yeah.
Which is basically like if you loved the Secret Defenders, you would love Asgardians of the Galaxy because it kind of continues that.
Right. It looks a lot of fun. Actually, I'm not collecting it myself at the moment, but I know Throg's in there, so it's got to be a fun time, right? And I like Valkyrie. I think it would be really good. That's heading towards something we know as well. Donny Cates had released a preview of what's happening in 2019 with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm not sure how the Asgardians of the Galaxy will feed into that, but it looks exciting times for the cosmic realm of Marvel because, geez, the Guardians of the Galaxy look like it's full of big-time hitters at the moment. This is next year, mind you, but you've got the likes of Silver Surfer, Gladiator, Cosmic Ghost Rider. It looks absolutely kick-ass, and that's very exciting. Anything else of note that you're collecting at the moment?
I'm also collecting DC's Batman Beyond series. I'm a huge Batman Beyond fan as well.
Yep.
And then what else am I collecting? Of course, I'm collecting Marvel's Moon Knight series.
Excellent.
American Gods, my Einzel. Okay. I like Neil Gaiman stuff as well.
Yes.
I got a lot of things I collect. And then, of course, the Venom series and all the different Venom offshoots that are coming.
So, yeah...
Go ahead.
Sorry. So you are collecting all the Venom titles. Was it First Host, Web of Venom?
Yeah, so we actually, a couple of weeks ago, we recorded a We Are Venomaniacs podcast episode. It will be our longest episode we've ever recorded. It came in a little over 2 hours. We'll see how it does when edited down. But it was our review of both the Venom movie and of First Host.
Okay.
And I can tell you for the most part, First Host was not very popular. This was Mike Costa's return to Venom to kind of finish up a storyline he left dangling at the end of his series regarding Venom's newest spawn, who was actually never named in the comic. It was only named in the previous little recap at the beginning of the comic. His name is Sleeper. And so he kind of brought that in and then also explained another storyline that was kind of dangled back in Space Knight, which is who was Venom's first host.
Yes.
Yeah, so it turned out to be, and this is spoilers for anyone who hasn't read it yet, it turned out to be this Kree warrior named Telkar, who now a bunch of us call Kree Price, because he's basically Lee Price 2.0.
Not very popular?
Not very popular.
Oh, no.
So it wasn't a fantastic series. It had a little bit of fantastic art to it, and I liked the character Sleeper, the new symbiote. Though he he will probably never show up again. He kind of shuffled off into obscurity, as most symbiotes tend to do. But yeah, then we had the Venom, the Web of Venom Venom.
I really enjoyed that. The first issue was very strong, I thought.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, when I read it, I wasn't entirely taken over by it. It's just it felt a little like if that had come out before Donny Cates' run, it would have made sense as a prequel.
Oh, okay, yes, I can see that. Yeah, for sure. But it was it's a one and done, right? Because the next one has Carnage, which looks awesome as well. It's immediately drawn me in because it looks like, I don't know, they just look like one-shots. And I can see them being collected into a trade, and you're having these really cool stories one after the other.
So Web of Venom is supposed to be a one-shot type of series. But yeah, like you said, the next issue is Carnage Born, which is resurrecting Carnage because when last we saw Cletus Cassidy and the Carnage symbiote, Cletus Cassidy was separated from the Carnage symbiote following the events of Jerry Conway's Carnage series, and then he was brought back for the what we call the Poison trilogy, which is Venomverse, Poison X, which is the X-Men Blue and Venom crossover series, and then concluded with Venomized. And in Venomized, they brought him in, and because in the Venomverse series, there was an alternate reality Carnage that really raised hell with the Poisons and their plans, and they feared him so much that they decided, well, when we come to the mainstream universe, the 616 universe, we're going to find this Carnage person and turn him immediately so we have this powerhouse. So they found Cletus Cassidy, but of course without Carnage because he was separated at the time. And they just put a symbiote on him and then put a poison on him to make him into a poison Carnage. And at the end of the series, he was left pretty much floating dead in space again. This is the second time he's been left floating in space dead. And then the Carnage symbiote itself was attached to Norman Osborn for the Amazing Spider-Man series. Its conclusion, the 800.
The Red Goblin. The Red Goblin, right?
Exactly, the Red Goblin. And the last we saw of that was he was separated from the Carnage symbiote, but he had also extended it to his grandson, Normie. And Normie apparently still has some of that symbiote.
Oh, this is fascinating stuff. I can see it all tying together now. It's really cool. I mean, the Spider-Verse is just huge, and let alone the Venomverse as well. But no, that's really cool stuff. Far out. Web of Venom, that's good. And then obviously, as you mentioned, Donny Cates' Venom series as well, which I'm collecting. I think it's really good at the moment. It's a very dark edge. Someone described it as very kind of Spawn-esque. Just in tone, and I don't collect Spawn. I used to, but I can see that it's really, really cool. I love what he's doing with the whole Venom mythology. Yeah,
his series has been it's probably as we called it in the podcast. This is kind of Eddie Brock's Rick Remender moment, where Rick Remender really redefined the Venom character when he wrote Agent Venom and became super popular. Donny Cates is doing the same thing with Eddie Brock Venom, kind of revitalizing the character, and he's been doing such a great job. And I love the marketing that they've been doing for Venom on Twitter and all the different social media platforms, because they've been calling it better than Watchmen, which is hilarious. And and I'll keep on saying that as well. Venom is better than Watchmen.
Donny Cates is a very, very big talent. I did give my 2 cents as well, though. I am worried that he might get burnt out. I mean, he's just doing so much, for me, I don't know. I mean, this is just me. I mean, he's a very talented writer, but for me, sometimes I get kind of put off when every title I look at is done by Donny Cates, because there's a little part of me wanting a bit of variety, but I can't deny that, if you look at Cosmic Ghost Rider, if you look at Venom, if you look at, what else is there? Web of Venom, you look at, is he doing Death of Inhumans as well? All very different, so he does have so much range to him. So I think he's one of the big hitters in Marvel at the moment. They've struck a good deal with him. He's there for a foreseeable time, and good on him, because he's got a wealth of ideas, and it's great to see them all kind of firing on all cylinders. So that's really good.
And he did the Doctor Strange Damnation.
Yes, of course. Of course. Well, Damnation, for Moon Knight fans, there was a bit of contention there with the depiction of Moon Knight. Some people liked it, because he was kind of lighthearted. Some of the other fans, kind of like myself, were kind of didn't really kind of get Moon Knight, especially Mr. Knight.
I don't think it's the worst depiction, honestly. I think you can do worse.
You probably could. But I cannot fault as well. His Doctor Strange run would have to be one of my favourite Doctor Strange runs recently as well. Really, really loved his issues, the tie-ins there. And for any listeners out there who have just jumped on board, we did do a Damnation crossover with 3 other podcasts. We did it with Inner Demons, the Ghost Rider podcast, Iron Fist, Sons of the Dragon, and we did it with Defenders TV podcast, who covered the Doctor Strange aspects. So all 4 of us cover the whole event. So back in March, just look at our back catalogues. We should have links to all the other episodes, but we all take turns in reviewing each of the issues. It was a lot of fun. It made the event a lot of fun, actually. But what we found was Doctor Strange. Kate's Doctor Strange was, I think, by far the strongest, even than I thought, than the core books as well. So, Donny Cates is doing it really well. Look, Orion, I think also as well, let's quickly mention, so you have seen the Venom movie, right? I'm sure you have. Yes. I haven't as yet, and it's not like I don't want to. I actually really do want to see it, but a little 3-month-old little fella has prevented me from going to the cinema. So I'm hoping to catch it when it comes on rental or something, I'm not put off by, you mentioned bad feedback or bad responses from fans and stuff. Look, if you're a fan, I'm a big advocate. If you're a fan, everyone's taste is different. Don't be put off by any negative stuff. Go for yourself. Go check it out yourself. And see see if you like it. So that's how I'm going in on it as well. I'm trying to filter out all the comments I've heard about it. And look, it's going to be a fun film, isn't it? It's not going to. It's a popcorn film, which is basically what all comic book films are. So, I'm going to go in and hopefully enjoy it. But let's see. It's done well, hasn't it? So there's probably a sequel on the way. Yeah.
It has been very surprising how well it's done. And I don't think it has been released in China yet. And they've been really marketing it. And I think it's going to really boom once it hits China as well. But otherwise, it has been doing spectacularly. And I'm like, I love it, because I've been a supporter of this film since day one. I've never had anything bad to say about it, because I've been looking forward to this movie for such a long time, ever since after Spider-Man 3. And like, I loved the movie. Like, I get the criticisms, but I'm an absolute supporter of the movie, and I'm really looking forward to a sequel. Hopefully, they'll keep the sequel in mind, because I know they're right now moving on to shoot Morbius, the Living Vampire.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're moving on to that. They're really trying to push their Sony alternative Marvel universe, their Spider-Verse, so-called. But hopefully, the other movies, I hope they're, if not as good, then better than Venom, just to keep the franchise alive and hopefully not detract from Venom's success.
Yeah. What's happened to? Do you know what's happened to Silver Sable and Black Cat? Was that?
Yeah, so apparently originally they were meant to be together in a movie called Silver and Black.
Silver and Black, yeah.
But then sounds like that plan kind of got scrapped, and they were talking about maybe putting Silver Sable and Black Cat on the back burner for now and focusing on Morbius, which is really their next film.
Right.
Otherwise, Venom, the movie, I think what you have to do is you have to realize that what the critics are saying, what they're talking to, is the actual quality of the film, not the material itself.
Okay.
Because they're judging it from a film critic's perspective, not from a fan's perspective.
Yeah.
So, Venom is, I guess you could say objectively, not a fantastic movie. There's a lot that is wrong with it. Even I had, I saw it 3 times in theaters.
Oh, wow.
That's as many times as I'm going to see it in theaters. I will wait now till the video release.
Yep.
But, I definitely say there are a lot of things that are pretty off with the movie.
Okay.
But I think one of the biggest things that a lot of fans might have criticized about it is that they were expecting it to be a hard R, dark and edgy type of film.
Yeah.
Which it would have been great if we got an R rating for the film.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure because Tom Hardy had mentioned there's something like 40 minutes of unused footage.
Wow.
That was cut from the film. So I'm hoping that even though Sony is adamant about saying no, there is no R cut of the film, that it will kind of go the way of the recent DC films, whereas they would get a re-release or a alternative release for home video of an unrated cut or whatever. So hopefully the same thing happens for Venom. I'm really hoping for that because I'd love to see how much more there was to it.
Yeah. I reckon as well. I think that's a great idea as well, and that'd be silly not to, because as a consumer and to buy the Blu-ray or whatever or the DVD that you get, it is another nice incentive, isn't it, to see another version of the film. And when you have people screaming for an R-rated version and you have the theatrical version, isn't that a marketer's dream? Why not just have the theatrical version and you have another version? I reckon you'd get a lot, and you'd actually get a lot of people really interested who may not have originally considered to get the DVD to actually buy it. So I think that's a great idea. So hopefully Sony, I mean, if there's 40 minutes, that would be great. I mean, hopefully 40 usable,
at least even
footage.
some of that, if it's usable, what I'm hoping is first off, for any fans who have their doubts about it, or who have been saying this is a terrible film because it's not the dark, edgy thing they were expecting, all I say is look at the source material they're pulling from Venom Lethal Protector and Planet of the Symbiotes, and you will realize Venom's not really overall a dark and edgy character.
Okay.
He actually does have some corny humor to him. Especially in the early 90s.
Oh, 90s for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the fact that there is a lot of levity to the film really speaks to his history, which I really loved. I'm glad we had a laugh.
Yeah.
So but otherwise, what I'm really hoping is, Venom is doing so well in the box office right now that, and really, we all believe that it was Sony's intention to release a PG-13 film to kind of entice Marvel Studios and Disney into saying, okay, maybe we'll consider including Venom in the MCU. But since we are already doing so well with the film, hopefully that idea has come across Marvel and Disney's minds.
Yeah.
So, my what I hope will happen is that later down the line, say the movie comes out on home release, and they say, you know what, we're going to do a special release in theaters again but it will be the R cut.
Yes.
It kind of like how they're doing, how Fox is doing the Deadpool right now, where the Deadpool 2, they had it released and it was the R, of course, rated R, and everyone loved it and everything.
Yeah.
And they're doing a special release around Christmas time this year, where it's a family cut of the film, which is like supposed to be PG-13, because it was kind of like the film was basically a family film just with R elements, but they're kind of like playing down R elements, I assume.
Why not? I mean, why not? You want to expand your fan base as well, and you kind of limit yourself. I was just speaking to a work colleague as well, and his daughter is actually into a lot of the MCU stuff, but he obviously doesn't let her kind of watch Deadpool because she's not kind of old enough yet for that.
Yeah.
Why not just make a PG version as well? I mean, again, for marketing purposes, it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I mean, it's because it's you know, we all know why Sony is making these Venom movies and their Spider-Verse. It's all money motivated. Yeah. And what better way to get more money than to do a re-release in theaters, but with the R version?
Of course, absolutely. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's really cool. I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that, you know, I will be picking up the Blu-ray, you know, once it drops anyway, and I'll be looking for. Hopefully, I can get to the cinema someday. We'll have to see. But you know, let's. I'm kind of edging it towards, you know, our loony listeners and our Moon Knight fans, of course. You and I spoke briefly about Venom and Moon Knight actually crossing paths, and they're really, well, the one that we want to cite is from the Mike Benson run.
Yes.
So it's issue 22. I've got issue 21 or 22, and so it's just interesting. You know, obviously Venom's such a powerful character, and our boy Moon Knight getting in there. It was quite an interesting tussle, I thought. Moon Knight was in the issue. He actually goes kind of Daredevil in the sense that he goes on all black. His all black costume. And he infiltrates a base where Venom and some other villains who are the Thunderbolts under Norman Osborn are there to stop Moon Knight. I think I've got to reread my Moon Knight in this era, but Norman Osborn has the shits basically with Moon Knight and doesn't like him as well. So Venom's on the team, and I forgot to ask, Orion, if you have your version with you. I've got it in front of me now. Do you have a copy by any chance? No.
I don't have the copy in front of me right now, but I have the Marvel Wiki page open, so I can have a bit of a refresher. Okay,
yeah. I mean, well, I'm looking at it at the moment, and we see it's kind of a bit of a short, sharp altercation between Venom and Moon Knight. Why don't you read out the wiki stuff?
Yeah, so it's a couple of paragraphs, but I can read it out. But Norman Osborn and his Thunderbolts have been tasked with tracking down and apprehending the rogue superhero Moon Knight. He provides them dossiers on Spectre's background and provides them with a slideshow detailing his physical capabilities. Osborn wants to be certain that they can secure Moon Knight without added intervention from S.H.I.E.L.D. So, meanwhile, Bertrand Crowley visits the home of Jean-Paul Duchamp and his roommate Rob. He tells them that Moon Knight is in trouble and will require their help. Frenchie has no intention of helping Mark Spector any longer. His friendship with Spector has been brought to nothing but pain. Crowley then calls up Spector's former paramour Marlene Alron. Her response to Crowley's plea meets with as much success as his meeting with Duchamp. Elsewhere, Iron Man and a detachment of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents arrive at the ruins of a crack house, the last known sighting of Moon Knight. Iron Man is irritated for letting someone like Moon Knight manipulate the Commission of Superhuman Affairs into giving him a registration card. Moon Knight, meanwhile, after stopping a truck full of drug runners, runs into the Thunderbolts. The team attacks him, and Spectre retreats into the safety of a darkened warehouse. Moon Knight gets the drop on the swordsman and quickly disables him. Venom charges toward him, but Moon Knight backflips behind a supply of propane tanks.
Yep.
Venom's momentum drives him into the tanks, and there's a huge explosion, which, if you know Venom, fire is kryptonite.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone evacuates this building safely, but Moon Knight has disappeared. Spectre does not escape unscathed, however. The explosion nearly disembowels him, and he barely has the strength to make it back to his headquarters. Within the sanctity of his home, Mark Spectre collapses upon the floor.
Yeah, so it was a short and sharp altercation with Venom there, but it was fun to see our boy Mooney going toe-to-toe with Venom. It seemed like Venom was his own worst enemy there. He kind of... I was looking at the pages as you were reading it, and he kind of charges towards Moon Knight, and he's still shouting out, "Kill, kill," and he ends up biting into one of the propane gas tanks, and that causes the explosion. So not the best there.
Yeah, for a bit of context for people who don't know this, this Venom is the host is actually Matt Gargan, who was formerly the Scorpion, and Matt Gargan originally used to be everyone's least favorite Venom host until Lee Price came along.
And then Cree Price.
And then Cree Price.
Yeah.
I actually liked Matt Gargan's run. I understand the criticism, but I like pretty much every Venom character except for Lee Price.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Gargan is not an intelligent character, so it was no surprise that he went out this way.
yeah, he probably should stick to just being Scorpion, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
There was another thing. I can't, unfortunately, sorry, Loonies, I don't have it with me. There's also a quite a popular image. I'm not sure whether it's issue 21 or not. I had a quick flick through 21. I couldn't see it. But there is an image where Moon Knight is in his traditional costume and Venom is above him in an alleyway.
Yes.
So yeah,
that might have been the issue prior to it.
Okay.
I remember that being like the last page of the issue.
Okay, let me have a I've got 21 here as well. So I thought I didn't see it, but it would make sense. Obviously, it's because that was what I was on my. No, see that last page has Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin at the back.
You know what? It might have been in issue 22, like just a brief shot before Venom attacks. That might have been it.
Right, yeah. In any case, you know what I love about Moon Knight is that he always takes on villains or opponents way beyond his league, and I'd have to admit that Venom is truly well and above his league. I mean, he could bite his head off, he could get the symbiote to do all sorts of things to Moon Knight. So I'm kind of glad it was short and sharp in this altercation, but as you say, Gargan's not the best. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed, so he was just probably his own worst enemy in that one as well.
Yeah. If you want, I can give you a brief summary of other memorable moments when Moon Knight has crossed paths with symbiotes.
Oh, okay, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so in comics in particular, he crossed paths with symbiotes. It was never really seen on the page, but it was mentioned in the Venomverse series that there was a venomized Moon Knight from an alternate reality that was eventually turned into a poison.
Yes, I did read. I did read Venomverse, so I do remember there was a. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so unfortunately we didn't get to see that one. That would have been cool to see, but and then notably in video games, there was the Spider-Man Web of Shadows video game, which was very symbiote centric, and even though Moon Knight was one of the characters you played with, not you didn't play as, but you interacted with and everything. Yeah. There was concept art, and it was in the credits of the game at the end of a symbiote Moon Knight.
That'd be great. The melding of two great characters, I think that would be perfect.
It was actually one of my motivations. I'm a writer as well, and back when that game was out, I was so in love with that game that I decided to continue its story, because it's one of those games where you have the morality system, red suit, black suit morality.
Yeah.
And if you ended on, there was like 4 different endings for the game depending on the choices you made throughout the game. And I decided, hey, I want to write a fan fiction series that kind of continues after the full black suit ending, which is Spider-Man being completely taken over by the symbiote and allowing New York to stay invaded by symbiotes. And I wrote into that series the symbiote Moon Knight and had some fun with that.
Yeah, right. Awesome. No, I mean, that sounds great. We're going to have to actually talk more about your writing coming up as well. But before we get into the main event and the big reason why you're here, Orion, which is an arc review of Moon Knight Volume 1, issues 31 to 32, why don't we take a quick short break and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Phil Parrish from the Capes and Lunatics podcast, a proud member of the collective, and you're listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. We are here in Over the Moon. Yes, it is a waxing gibbous, I believe, and so Khonshu has demanded that we do a trade or arc review for this episode. And as you are obviously aware, we have special guest Orion from the Venomaniacs podcast.
We Are Venomaniacs.
We Are Venomaniacs. Everything to do with Venom, the character, very popular at the moment. But Orion has chosen issues 31 and 32. It's not, I mean, it is an arc, I guess. It's a two-parter, and it goes all the way back in Volume 1. First question, though, this was a great read, and I can't wait to get into it. But Orion, first question, why did you choose this arc in particular?
So this 2-part story is one of my favorite Moon Knight stories of all time. I've actually written a brief screenplay, kind of in the style of if I don't know if you ever recall, there was a couple of YouTube short videos, fan films basically. One was Truth in Journalism, which was a Venom fan film starring Ryan Quanten as Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
And then there was the Dirty Laundry video, which was the Punisher video featuring Tom Jane reprising his role as Punisher.
Yes.
Yeah, so I forget who the I think it was the producer or director who was really popular with those films. I kind of wrote a screenplay based on the story in 31 and 32 in the same kind of style, but kind of modernizing it.
Right.
Mainly, I had used instead of just the normal Moon Knight persona, I had used Mr. Knight, because that's I wrote this back during the Warren Ellis run.
Right.
And so Mr. Knight was super popular. I was like, okay, well, in this version, we're going to have Mr. Knight instead of Moon Knight.
Yeah. That would work well. I think Mr. Knight would fit in very well with this. It's very street level. I mean, like, when I say that, I know it's obvious, but it's very, very street based, and it's basically dealing. Well, there's a lot of themes in this, but it's basically dealing with the street gang, the Savage Studs. So that's cool. So how's the so you've written it? It's completed.
Yeah, I wrote it a while ago. I probably have to revisit it. I liked for one day to maybe be made into a short film. I call it Music Box.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of one of those. Like I said, it's kind of like Truth in Journalism or Dirty Laundry. Yep. You wouldn't know by the title that it's a Moon Knight fan film.
No, that'd be great. I mean, yeah, we'll have to keep in touch, and if it ever does get off the ground, would really love to see it.
Yeah,
it'd be great. I do know that a couple of loonies. I think Alex Lumen. I'll give a shout out to Alex Lumen, one of our loonies, a young fella. He's a filmmaker as well. I'm not sure if he writes it as well, but he does act in the films. And they're currently doing a short film on Moon Knight as well. I'd love to see that. I'd love to get him on the show, actually, and just talk all about it. But, different medias to have Moon Knight in. We're still waiting for the Netflix show. We're still waiting for the movie. I'm sure it's around the corner somewhere. But it's great work, like what you're doing yourself, like writing this fanfic stuff, getting short films made. It's the only way to kind of really show that the demand is out there. So, really, hats off to you for that. It's really good.
Thanks. Yeah, definitely. This is one of my favorite series, and I know that we're going to mention it, but it ties into a Warren Ellis issue.
Yeah, let's talk about that straight away. I mean, there were fortuitously, and I don't know, this must have been, Khonshu must have aligned this as well. So last episode we did a review on Warren Ellis Volume 7, Issue 3 box, which was all to do with Moon Knight fighting punk rock ghosts and him finding a box at the end and some corpses of some street gangs. So that was just last episode, Orion. And we reviewed that. And one of our loonies, Josh Geronimo Johnson, pointed out, he wondered if there was some correlation between that and Volume 1 of Moon Knight. And lo and behold, here we are, looking at issues 31 and 32. So, I'm not sure if you've done any further research, Orion, between Volume 1 and Warren Ellis's run. Have you by any chance? No?
So, yeah, don't know if there is a direct correlation. I think it was kind of a spirit of the story type of situation, where he probably, Warren Ellis had probably liked this particular story as well, and decided to kind of make his own take on it. It's kind of, it almost reads as a spiritual successor to the story. We can kind of extrapolate maybe the corpses that became the ghosts in Ellis's issue were members of the Savage Studs.
Well, I mean, sorry.
I think the Warren Ellis issue was really inspired by the cover to number 31, which shows Moon Knight struggling with a ghost coming from the box, but there are no supernatural elements to the story whatsoever.
No, none whatsoever, but most definitely in Warren Ellis's. Look, I want to take it one step further, Orion, and I reckon Warren Ellis was so close to actually getting it to work and align literally. Like we see in Warren Ellis's issue 3, when Moon Knight lifts the music box, it says, Johnny, be good, love mum, you know. If that had said, Lenny, be good, love mum, I think that would have tied it all together. Look, I still appreciate that in the spirit of it. It's probably homage to issues 31 and 32. But I reckon regardless of the fact that those punk rock ghosts, you know, didn't have Savage Studs jackets on or anything like that, I reckon if at least there was a nod to Lenny, because Lenny is one of the characters that we're going to look at in issue 31 and 32, and he is the son of the mum who has a music box, then that would just align everything, I think. But yeah, and there is actually a Johnny in issue 32 here as well. I don't know if you picked that up as well. One of the Savage Studs is Johnny, but he has no connection to the music box. So a missed opportunity, I don't know. Maybe it was intentional from Warren Ellis to be clear of it, but to just like have a nod towards these issues. But I think it was, I just love these little Easter eggs, that Warren Ellis has populated throughout his run. He does it in all of the issues, and it shows an attention to detail for Moon Knight's history, which is one of the great things about Ellis's run, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get into this. This is great stuff. I'm going to throw it to you as well again, Orion. What we usually do for our Over the Moon, for any Lunar Pick review or Over the Moon review, we will start off with a sliver, which is just in a nutshell, in a couple of sentences, how would you summarize the synopsis for this story over the 2 issues? And then we'll just talk about just points that we enjoyed or things that we picked up. Most notably was the Warren Ellis reference as well, which we've already covered. And we'll finish off with a Moon rating. Now, Orion, I'm not sure if you've been on our Facebook group, but myself being very anal about all this, I have specified each phase of the moon and how much it equates to. So let's just do a rating at the end out of 10, and I can let you know what phase of the moon that is. So, not wanting to throw you in the deep end here, if you had a couple of sentences to describe this whole story, how would you describe what happens in issue 31 and 32?
All right. So, basically, this story, Moon Knight kind of takes a bit of a backseat role. He's kind of the observer of things, and a bit of an instigator as well. But basically, we focus in on Do Row, which is a line of shops, kind of failing shops in Brooklyn. Moon Knight had been noted by Ricky and Ray Landers, Gina's kids, that there was something going on with a gang there of the Savage Studs, and he should look in on it. So the Savage Studs have kind of graduated into from a social club into a gang, because they are going around Dobro collecting protection money and threatening the shopkeepers there.
Yeah.
In particular, there's one shopkeeper, a pawnbroker, who let me see if I can find his name. It is
Lewis.
Lewis, yes, Lewis. He's a bit of a troublemaker. He's kind of adamant about not giving into the Savage Studs. And of course, their leader Shank is not too happy about that. He's very machismo, very like, oh, you're going to do what I tell you, blah, blah. So, but it's kind of hinted at that Lenny, one of the Savage Studs, has some sort of connection to Lewis and is very sweet on him. So he's like, you know what, forget about it. I will take care of it later. Don't worry about the protection money. I'll take care of it. And so Moon Knight kind of intervenes when they start getting rough. And Shank goes in for a punch. Moon Knight, blocks it. And Lenny decides to try to help him, but of course Shank runs off while Lenny's dealing with Moon Knight, kind of showing, there's no honor among thieves.
Yeah.
And so Moon Knight has a talk with Lenny, trying to explain, go down the righteous path and all that. And Lenny's like, how do we do that? Because look at the situation we're living in, blah, 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 that type of thing. And then goes off to visit his mom and think of a way to get Shank the money from the pawnbroker. Meanwhile, Lewis is gathering with a bunch of the shopkeepers, planning to go and fight the gang, trying to free themselves of their influence. But Moon Knight talks them down from it. So back to Lenny, we find him at home with his mom, stressing over how he's going to defuse the situation.
Yep.
His mom pulls out a old music box that was given to them by the father when Lenny was born, and it was like one of her prized possessions. And when she falls asleep, he figures, hey, this has to be worth something, so he takes it to the pawnbroker, Lewis, and says, "How much will you give this for?" And Lewis is like, I can't take this from you. I can't give you money for this because
it's a dream. Someone's dream.
It's a dream.
Yeah.
And that is like that'll be something I have to discuss upcoming. But it was a great moment, and Lewis finally caves when Lenny convinces him, "Hey, you gotta do this, or the alternative is gonna be worse."
Yeah.
So he gets the money. He goes home again, and his mother is completely distraught. Her music box is missing. Someone had stolen it, and Lenny's like, "You know what? I know who stole it. I'll go take care of this."
Yeah. Change of heart.
He goes off into the night, and he's like, "Oh, how is this going to play out? I have to have this money, but I can't ruin my mother's dream like this." So that's the end of 31.
Yeah. Yep. And 32 is a massive recap. There's a massive recap for a fair few pages.
Yeah, a lot of it is recap. So another thing to note with 31 and 32 is they both have B stories.
Yes.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
For 31, it was Fly the Friendly Skies. I don't know how worth it is to discuss that story. It's not a great story.
No, it's hilarious because of the sign of the time, if anything. It has a message. There's almost an environmental but a psychopathic environmental message. In a nutshell, for that, it's hilarious. Moonlight goes up in a blimp, basically. There's an eco-terrorist, and the only way he reckons that the world can be a better place environmentally is to get rid of humans. So he wants to gas everyone, I think. And there are 5 female assassins, all hardly clothed, it's a really a ridiculous romp, but it's a bit of fun. So urge you to read it if you can. And the second story at the end of 32. Orion, there's a big name in here.
That one was a bit better.
There was a bit better, but it had a big name in it.
Yeah, Mark Silvestri was, I think, on art.
Yeah, one of the... And he, very not like his artwork. This must be very early Mark Silvestri, before he honed his own skill. I mean, it's still very competent art, but a different story. But that was another story where Moon Knight wasn't a major player in it. Like he barely did anything in that story. Yeah, but it was a great story. But the point is that both of these issues have these B stories, and it felt like that the main stories for both of these issues could have fit into one issue if it wasn't for that extra space at the end. I believe so as well. And if it wasn't for the 7 pages of recap in issue 32, I counted as well. But remember, back in the day, we didn't have that little blurb at the front, which is a recap now in all the comics that we read. This was part and parcel of comics back in the day. You really had to reiterate what happened before. So it's again a sign of the times. But just quickly on 32, what happens is so Lenny has a change of heart. He tries to get he gets the music box back, and he doesn't have the money for Shank. The Savage Studs get really angry about this, so they trash the pawn shop. There's a bit of a fracas, an altercation between Shank and Lenny, and unfortunately it results in Lewis, who tries to stop the fight, getting stabbed, and he dies. So a very sad kind of ending. Moon Knight is there all too late, but he still manages to find out the hideout of the Savage Studs. And what I found really funny here, Orion, is that the Savage Studs are trying to organise a dance.
So all this fuss for just a dance. Now, basically, I think they're trying to raise the money to bring in a favorite band if there's something legit.
Yeah,
but
it just
the motivation behind it all is just like
it does. It's a little funny, isn't it? Yeah, it sounds like these guys, they're just little kids wanting to organise like a little concert, but they've obviously gone to the extreme in Doe Row to terrorise shopkeepers. But anyway, Moon Knight finds a hideout. He basically takes on all the Savage Studs, and that's where we see a bit of Johnny, and there's a Mohawk there as well, not as big as the one in Warren Ellis's run. But Lenny comes in and he has a talk to Moon Knight, and he manages to buy back the music box he gets from the pawn shop, after the tragedy that had just happened. And and Moon Knight is left to rue, fallen dreams. And so that's basically the whole story there. Now, just one of the points, obviously you mentioned as well, I loved how Moench uses the characters of Rick and Ray as well as still very strong street informants for Moon Knight. So that's how Moon Knight catches wind of all this. But one of the big things I thought as well was I loved, again, the writing. You can start to see it with Doug Moench, the pawn shop and the way it's written and how it's written like a house for all these broken dreams. And this was the stuff that you were alluding to, Orion, with Lewis talking to Lenny about how he doesn't want to take the music box because, it's someone's wedding ring, or someone's prized possession. But
if you don't mind, I'd love to read
sure.
that entire conversation because it is a gem, really. So, Lenny is arguing with Lewis, saying, this music box was mine as a kid. I could sell it, blah, blah. So Lewis says, yes, I know. And I tell you not to do this. Maybe it means nothing to you now, but someday. Lenny, I'm a merchant of dreams. And sometimes, many times, I am sick with myself for trading such things. What are you talking about, old man? On the shelves, Lenny. All dreams, family heirlooms, the radio someone worked overtime to buy so he could share the sounds of beauty, the ring which once sealed love, the watch which once rewarded 50 years of honest service. These are just things, Lenny, and often junk, yes, but they're also symbols of dreams and hopes and aspirations. I deal in shattered dreams, Lenny. I turn precious dreams into cheap dollars. Do not help me to do it again. Not with such a lovely dream as this little box of music. Once a dream has been lost, Lenny, you cannot buy it back. Not with all the cheap dollars in the world. That was just...
It was really
gave me
good.
Chills.
It was very well written. Munched does really well. And Lenny and Lewis, they are openly crying at this as well in the panels. But it just set up so well with Moench. He says it right off the bat as well. I mean, that is the great conversation that Lewis has with Lenny. But even at the beginning, there's some talk about the pawn shop. And, I can't see it now. But it's, it's all about how... Oh, here it is. So it says, when Moon Knight is attacked by Lenny and Shank goes away... Moon Knight's holding Lenny, and it says in the panels as Lenny stands in front of the pawn shop, a spatter of blood stains the window filled with hocked dreams, merchandise originally displayed, brand new and tantalizing in all the other shops along Doe Row. Just as all roads lead to Rome, all dreams die with the pawnbroker. And that's just such a powerful bit of writing from... This isn't a comic book. It's so... again, this is what becomes Doug Moench's kind of signature writing, I believe, in a lot of Moon Knight. I haven't read his Batman or anything like that, but he has a very distinct writing style, and it's just this sort of beauty that he brings towards it. So the pawn shop is a very important aspect of this story. There's also an issue... Well, not an issue. The theme of... vigilanteism, isn't there, Orion?
Yeah.
With Lewis and the street owners. And this has confronted Moon Knight with them because they actually say to him, well...
What makes you different?
Yeah, exactly. You do this as well, so why can't we do this? Why can't I use my axe handle and my baseball bat to mete out justice? You do the same.
And he's shaken by it too because he's like that's different. I know what I'm doing. It's like...
I know,
what's your real answer?
Exactly. That's not really a real answer, These guys, I'm sure they know what they want to do. They're angry. Mark does have a point. I mean, he's trained. I can see what he means, but it doesn't justify what he does compared to what these guys do. But he manages to assuage them and get them not to do it, which is a good thing, because I don't know, that would have been all out war, wouldn't it, over the Savage Studs just for some dance money.
Yeah, I mean, it really played out well, like this whole theme of, what justifies vigilantism, what, how do you respond to what is obviously a symptom of overall misery.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and these guys, we actually see the flip side of it as well. Not so much the whole idea that the Savage Studs are ripping off or getting protection money from the shop owners so they can fund a concert, but when Lenny and Moon Knight have a conversation in the streets, Lenny's talking about poverty, basically trying to make ends meet, and I believe that's a real reason why he's fallen into the Savage Studs. He's not there for the same motives as Shank and all the others, but he is really struggling, it seems. And this is what he says to Moon Knight. So again, this is something that Moench brings up, and he tries to show you the other side of things, and to make things not as clear cut. And Lenny is a very he's an interesting character, because he literally goes back on. He's very impressionable, let's just say that. I mean, and impulsive, because when his mum's asleep, he decides to get the music box because he wants to not have to harass Lewis, right? So he's got good intentions.
Yeah.
But in doing so, he doesn't do it the right way. He steals a sentimental piece from his mum. So he doesn't do it the right way. He soon realizes that he's done wrong, and at a flick of a switch, he tries to.
He's stuck in a really awkward situation. It's like, hey, I need to have this money, but I can't sell out my mom's dream like this.
Yeah. Which he originally had no problems, but immediately it makes sense, obviously, with the talk with Lewis. And so he's learning as he goes. So he's a very fallible character, Lenny. Yeah. And I think you're meant to very much sympathise with him, because he's not an evil guy. He's just really trying to do stuff, but he does it in the wrong way. It's good to see that he kind of redeems himself in the end, but not without a tragedy, and that being the death of Lewis.
And it's revealed also in issue 1 during their entire conversation between Lenny and Lewis in the pawnbroker shop, that Lewis is actually Lenny's father.
Yeah, I read that as well. I didn't know whether that was it was very obscure. Do you have the panel where he says it?
Yeah. So it was right here. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. Listen, old man, you might have been my old man. So that right there is saying, this Lewis is Lenny's father, and for some reason he and his mother are separated because he's no longer in the picture. Yeah,
it was what threw me was the grammar. I mean, not being a stickler for all that, but if it said like, you may be my old man and you won't do this for me, but he says you might have been my old man. Yeah, I guess so. You might have been, but that implies that he's no longer his old man. So
yeah, I mean, it really speaks to why he's so emotional over this too.
Yeah, it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense if he is. So that's a real tragedy, because then that music box actually means a lot more to Lewis than what we originally think as well. I mean, this music box, he gave it to Lenny's mum. And you got to wonder whether Lenny's mum knows that Lewis is actually in the pawn shop as well. All these sorts of things, because it's it's quite tragic, I must say.
Yeah, and then, oh man, there are so many emotional beats to the story. Like, it was so abrupt. Like in issue 32, you have the fight scene at the pawn shop between Lenny and Shank. You know, Lenny's trying to force Shank is trying to force Lenny into not only getting the money from Lewis, but also making an example of him for messing with the Savage Studs. Yeah, and there's this whole tussle and everything, and they're fighting, and there's a knife involved, and Lewis steps in to try to stop things. You know, he's like, someone's going to get hurt, and then there's a little panel, the final panel on that struggle page, where there's a knife sticking in somebody, and we already know who it is. You turn the next page, there's the panels of Lenny and Shank kind of looking off and saying, "Oh my God, what have we done?" Yeah. And there's Lewis standing there with the knife in his chest. And the next panel, oh, that gets me, is he says his final words: "The dreams, Lenny, the dream." Yeah, he falls and he dies.
And and you see the use of the panel layout. You see him falling, and then you just see him on the floor, and it's all the more poignant because he's trying to save his son, not Lenny. He's trying to protect his son from this guy with a knife, and I guess you do what any father would do, just step in. And unfortunately, and what I love about this is that, again, we're talking grassroots here. There's nothing flash or there's nothing, out of this world about this. This is just a poor pawnbroker, and he just got stabbed, in an altercation. You don't get as, down to earth than that. And so, again, we're looking at Moon Knight's corner of the Marvel Universe, and it's just very much rooted in reality, So it just makes it more. You can empathize with it. I believe a lot more because you can, I dare say, relate to it. It's not that you see people get stabbed and stuff, but this is stuff that can humanly happen. Rather than, I don't know, teleporting or snapping your fingers and half the universe disappears, stuff like that. Which is nothing wrong with that. I do love those stories as well. But these stories about humanity is really good.
Yeah. This is why it makes it one of my favorite stories. Like, it's funny that a lot of my favorite stories for my favorite characters have them taking a back roll seat. Yeah, a backseat role.
Yes.
So
it's a moonlight, isn't it, Orion? It's getting late.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But yeah, this, and then the page before the final page, there's this great line where Lenny has confessed that, hey, don't blame Shank, don't blame the Savage Studs for what has happened. This was all my fault. So Lewis's death is on me. Yeah. And so Moon Knight's going to take him in, and Moon Knight promises that he'll testify for him. Yeah. And Lenny asks for one more favor before he turns him in. He has a bit of unfinished business. He puts down the money he had taken for the music box, and takes the music box back to take it back to his mother. Yeah. And the final line with him is, he's talking about it, can't take this from her, and then he turns to Moon Knight and he says, but the prices are getting out of hand, Moon Knight. And Moon Knight says, what? And he says, nothing. Yeah. But
it's so good, isn't it?
That was a heavy line right there. The prices
are getting out of hand. He's contemplating to himself, but saying it out loud, which is why obviously Moon Knight doesn't really gather what he's saying. And we can see this, Lenny being such a tragic figure as well. I can again see this working in the Warren Ellis thing about Lenny taking the box back. Lenny, again, trying to do the right thing, but not. So he may have taken the box back, and he may try and even the score, get vengeance for the death of his father and kill the Savage Studs, which, if they are indeed the ones in the Ellis run, is what we see happens. We see Moon Knight seeing the corpse kneeling in front of the box, and we see other dead corpses nearby, and the corpse next to the box has the gun in issue 3. So
Yeah.
it can very much work in with this, but if only it had Lenny be good rather than Johnny be good again, I think that would have been really good. But anyway, it's powerful stuff. Lenny is very much tragic.
Yeah, another thing I'll note is the whole Johnny Be Good thing. Let me see. I think that's actually a song.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Johnny Be Good.
Because that might be the tune that plays from the music box. Because we never know what the tune is that is being played. So it might be Johnny Be Good.
That could be it. Yeah, actually, the song is good is spelled GOODE, like Johnny Be Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, really good stuff here. And as you say, I do like how Moon Knight takes let's call it a back roll seat. But it's good because, when he does get into the hideout, like there's a certain level of security when I was reading this and knowing that Moon Knight's got this. Anything to do with fighting, like he's leaps and bounds above these people. So there's never any issue for me that he'll be in any trouble when he fights these savage studs. But, he does it anyway, but having said that, it's good that Moench doesn't have him fight a lot, because he can easily beat these guys, right? He can easily overpower them. So it's not all about the fighting. The whole thing was more about the relationship between Lenny and Lewis, and between Lenny and dreams, basically, or sentimental items. That was the main thing from these stories.
Yeah.
It's not about the fighting at all. So, as you say, Moon Knight, rightly so, he's in the background, but we kind of almost see it through the eyes of Moon Knight anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that point that it's really not about the fighting, because if you look in issue 1 when he fights the Savage Studs, it's really just like there is no competition there.
None at all.
And then in issue 2 when he arrives too late or whatever, he just kicks down the door.
Yeah.
And the first thing he says to them is, the kid gloves are off studs. Now that it's murder, you've just come of age.
Yeah. So he could feel he can unleash, basically.
Yeah, and that just communicates the grave seriousness of what just happened. And Shank tries to really put up a fight, because it's like, are you coming to our help, blah blah whatever. And he's like, no. Moon Knight throws down, and he's like, you seriously cannot take Moon Knight on. You're just a bunch of kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And Moon Knight is on a level. Absolutely.
He's a heavy he's an ex-merc. He's a heavyweight boxer. He's a master of nearly all. He's proficient in most of the martial arts. Lenny has been cited as 17 years old. So you're assuming that these guys are teenagers as well. Not to say that they aren't strong, but they're up against someone who is basically a killer. He's killed people. He's seen things. He's been there. He's done that. So really, different competition, different level altogether.
Yeah, I mean, they only get one good hit in. They hit him in the back of the head with a piece of wood. Yeah, and then they pile up on him. But then with a single punch, he pretty much breaks up that entire group. And then there's that one panel. Yeah. It's a 2-panel page, but the second panel of just the shot of his fist coming up for another blow. It has some blood on the knuckles, and you see in the shadow in the background what's going on. It's like, wow, it's just the pure brutality of it. It's like, you guys really screwed up. You murdered someone. Now you're paying for it.
Oh yeah, the kid gloves are off. Really, he's not going to hold back, because they have crossed the line, and this is the sort of stuff that Moon Knight deals with. So yeah, fantastic stuff. Really cool, really cool. This is available. Sorry, I forgot to mention, Loonies. I had a check. We are part of an affiliate program with Amazon, so I was going to post up a link to an e-copy of these, but unfortunately there is none available. So Comixology, Kindle, they don't have it. I'm assuming it's not then on Marvel Unlimited. It is.
No,
it isn't. It's sorry.
No, yeah, sorry, no, it isn't.
It's
I was
not,
just
no.
checking.
No.
That'll be something we can discuss as well as a little later. That I have a way to check.
Oh yeah, sure. It is available. I was reading it off the Essential Collection, which is an out of print. If you're lucky, you can find it. Collection of Moon Knight issues. It's in black and white newspaper format. It's also going to come out in January 2019 under the third Epic collection of Moon Knight, which I believe is called Final Rest.
Yes.
So keep your eyes out for that. So that's a coloured version, which would be really good. I'm going to get that straight away. And that will cover, again, I think the next iteration of Volume 1 issues after Volume 2. And where else is it available? Obviously floppies. I mean, you've got a couple of floppies. So if you're lucky enough in your LCS to find 31 and 32, you can pick it up as well. But yeah, let's go into Moon ratings here. So, Orion, I know this is one of your faves. Out of 10, what would you give the arc as a whole?
As a whole, I know it's probably been done before, but this is a 10 out of 10 for me.
10 out, so that's a full moon, a good full moon.
It's
for
a
you.
full moon because it is simply. The writing is fantastic, and here's another note: these two issues are the first two issues in which there was an artist change. Previously, it was Bill Sienkiewicz up until this point, and now they are changing over to Kevin Nowlan.
Kevin Nowlan,
on the pencils.
Yeah,
and then for issue 31, the inker was Terry Austin, and then for 32, it was Carl Potts, and we still have the same colorist of Christie Scheele. So
yes,
that's the consistency there. But it was fantastic because Sienkiewicz is legendary for the series. I don't think Nolan gets enough credit because
no, he doesn't.
You look at this and it's great art, and I want to note as well that you can notice the difference in the inks between I just had the names Terry Austin and Carl Potts, because you look at 31, the lines are very crisp and everything like that, and then you look at 32, and there's a lot more emotion to these lines. There's heavier points, heavier strokes,
and a lot more finer strokes as well.
Yeah. So so it's great that this was Kevin Nolan's and Carl Potts and Terry Austin's introduction to the series.
Yeah.
And it was, and issue 32, this cover was drawn by Kevin Nolan as well. And it's actually one of my favorite Moon Knight covers. I love that cover.
You'll see it, Loonies, on the episode summary or in the newsletter. That cover, it's a very recognizable cover. I would doubt that you would not recognize it if you do follow Moon Knight to some capacity. Yeah, it is one of the greater depictions of Moon Knight, I reckon, on a cover. It's really good stuff. Look, I would give it. I'm a bit more of a harsher marker, but I would give it a 3/4 moon. I really enjoyed it. I'd like to keep certain cards close to my chest as well. My back pocket, or I don't know, whatever the saying is. But a good 7.5 to 8 out of 10. I think it was a very enjoyable read. Obviously, the sign of the times, I get it. 32 had a lot of recap. It has to, because it's just what they did back in the day. When I read it, I found it was a little kind of repetitive, obviously, because it's a recap. But the whole story, as a whole, and the characters fleshed out, and the writing and the artwork was just great. It was really good. It's a good indication of the classic Moon Knight run. We're talking back in the 80s, so if you're more familiar with the Lemire run or the Houston run or the Warren Ellis run, stuff like that, and haven't checked out the older runs, I would recommend you check out 31 and 32. It gives you a good indication of the style of writing and the artwork during that time. And this was it's very different because it's so well rooted in again, I'll just say, it's just so well grounded. We're just talking about, it's just written about normal human people, and there are no bells or whistles, and it hits upon a lot of themes. So very cool stuff. Yeah. Well, Orion, actually, you got me interested. What was how do you look up stuff?
How I track stuff. So
yeah.
I don't know if anyone is really aware of this, but I really love to make lists, right?
Oh, yeah, me too.
And I have a chronology project for several of my favorite characters. I started with Venom because I want to track his progress throughout the Marvel Universe, specifically in the mainstream comics. So I made an entire list of his appearances, other symbiote appearances as well, from the beginning of Amazing Spider-Man 252 and Secret Wars number 8, all the way to modern times. And it also collects the trade paperback collections that you can buy and follow along with. And I did the same thing for Moon Knight. He was the second one I made one for. So that is available. I can offer a link to it so you can post it on your website.
Absolutely. I'll definitely put it in the
show
notes as well. But yeah, I'll put it up in the group as well.
In fact, here I'll just put it on the Discord so you can take a quick look at it. But it's I always call it a semi-complete list because I'm include as much as I can what I find on the Marvel Wiki saying where Moon Knight appears in the 616 universe.
Yep. Fantastic.
I don't know if I really do rely on myself and the community to go through this list to make sure I'm getting everything right. If I'm missing anything or if there's issues that shouldn't be there, let me know.
Yep, fantastic. I think that's a great idea. Loonies, I will post this up, please. And we are what I really do love about our Looney community. It's very supportive and encouraging. So for any of those that are really into the chronology, go check out this link. And yeah, let's bounce and share information with each other, and Ryan can compile a definitive list of Moon Knight stuff.
Yeah, so this list includes there's 3 different it's a Google Sheets, which is kind of like the equivalent of Microsoft Excel.
Yep.
There are 3 worksheets on here. There's the individual comics, books, and issues and graphic novels, which lists all the floppies and everything that's available. And that includes links to each issue on the Marvel Wikia. So you can follow that along. It also includes check boxes for if you can find it on Comixology or on Marvel Unlimited.
Yep, fantastic.
And then
that sounds good.
Yeah, and then there's the trade paperback collections tab, so you can follow along via trade collections if you want. And then I also recently made a reading order list, which takes the trade paperback collections and compiles a definitive reading order.
Oh, fantastic, Aaron! You've done the hard work for everyone else. That's really cool. I don't know about other loonies as well. I do collect trades as well, or in particular the Moon Knight trades. So even if I do have them in floppy or digital, I actually do get them. I double or triple. I have digital singles and trade versions, and in some cases hardcover versions as well. I know it's doubling up and tripling up, but hey, I enjoy it. So, thank you so much, Orion. That sounds really good. We'll post that up. I'll also check out the show notes as well. I will post up We Are Venomaniacs, the links there for you, as well as any other pages and platforms. Can I quickly ask, and where can Loonies find you on Facebook or Twitter, if they should?
Well, Facebook, I'm not exactly active on. I only just restarted my Facebook account after a long while of being off of it because I needed to register for my high school reunion, which is coming up. So that was the only way I could do it.
Cool.
But definitely, you can find me everywhere else on the web. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Reddit, other places. My usual handle is Orion Starboy. Starboy is all in caps with with O and boy being a 0. So pretty eponymous. I'm everywhere like that. So you can find me that way. I'm very active also on the Venom site subreddit. then we also included a link for the Venom Side Discord, which has really boomed in popularity, and we have a lot of members now.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, if you can pass on all those links, that'll be really good, Orion, and I'll chuck them in the show notes, and Loonies can find you there with a click of the finger. So once again, thank you, Orion. We're running out of time here, but I really appreciate. Thank you so much for staying up so late, so early in the morning for this. I really do appreciate your time and the effort you've gone into to prepare for the show. It's just been fantastic. Really, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem. Oh, and we should also note before we go, the Comixology sale.
Oh, yes, of course. Loonies as well. There is a Moon Knight Comixology sale. So all digital versions of Moon Knight issues so far. It doesn't have all of Volume 1. It doesn't have everything, but it has all the most recent stuff and trade versions of it and such. Check it out on Comixology. It's there's a good sale up to, I think, 2/3, 67% off or something like that. So it's pretty good. If you haven't got your issues, go check it out over there.
Yeah, the sale ends Monday the 22nd, so get on it.
Hurry up, Loonies, hurry up. Anyway, thanks once again, Orion, for all your time, and thank you for coming on and talking about these great issues, 31 and 32. It was really fun. That was our Waxing Gibbous arc review. Next phase, we have a couple of probably issues to look at. We're doing the current run. It's going to be Moon Knight issue 200. And also, I believe Arachnite will be out as well. So we'll be looking at both of them. We'll be actually having a couple of big guests with us next week. We'll have Max Bemis and his wife Sherry on the show. And I'm hoping to take them through a retrospective of his run as a Moon Knight writer. So that should be a lot of fun. So please tune in for that. That will be really good. And typically you can find us on Gmail, itkmoonnight@gmail.com. Send us an email. Send us an email, actually, of any questions or thoughts you want to convey towards Max. He does mention he's an open book, so he's willing to answer your questions. We've already got a couple of questions, which is really cool. But, yeah, please email your questions in. That would be really great. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/ITKMoonKnight. That's our page. We have a group. A really cool group. My gosh, we are growing. I just absolutely love this community. Thank you so much, everyone involved. It's it's facebook.com/groups/ITKMoonKnight. We're on Twitter. The handle is at ITKMoonKnight. We're also on Instagram, YouTube, Tumblr. Just search for Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. Well, Loonies, another episode ends. I hope you have liked the new format, the new music, the new logo, everything. It's all exciting stuff for us. It's a fresh start. It's an all new, all different. It's a legacy. I don't know. It's one of those, titles that Marvel does.
It's now.
It's now. Yes. ITK now. It's fantastic. We enjoy it. A big thank you, I must say, to Deleta, the band, and Looney Noel Tate for providing the music for us moving forward now, our new intro. And also thank you to Randolph Benoit and his brother Ben, who are Loonies, and I hope I've got your surname correct. Please let me know if I haven't. But he assisted with the graphic design for the new logo, so thank you so much, my good sir. Again, I love this community. It's good. Next week, we'll have our full complement of Khonshu. We'll have Rebecca. We'll have a couple of Loonies on, Tommy and Chad. It's going to be a huge party with Max and Sherry, so cannot wait for it. Once again, Orion, a big thank you, sir. Any last words?
Have a great evening, night, wherever you are, or whenever you listen to this. And We Are Venomaniacs. Have a listen. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And can I quickly then just say as well, my gosh, We Are Venomaniacs. They have awesome guests like Donny Cates, like Ryan Stegman. Go check it out. It's a really, really fun listen. So, and with that, I'll just sign us off with may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.